Men who are abused by women and tried to tell someone, what was it like? No one believes you at first. Still get highly aggressive PMs when I talk about it on Reddit. People insist I must have done something to deserve it. The worst part is they reverse the dynamic in their head and I've been made out to be a horrible abuser when I never lifted a finger. Meanwhile I was getting hit on a pretty consistent basis and the emotional manipulation was extreme. That's the last bit of control they have. Controlling the narrative. They have accused me of so many terrible things because that's the final avenue left to hurt me. That's what abuse looks like in the end. The abuser burns it all down and then tells everyone that they had no choice and to stay away from the only person who can dispute the facts. Had a friend whose wife was controlling and manipulative. When he decided he had enough and tried to leave, she convinced him to go to counseling. When she told the therapist how she is stressed at work and kids and whatever, he said he hears a lot and they're normal feelings to have. When my friend tries to explain that she's mentally abusive and controlling, the therapist was silent. He clearly didn't believe him and was already siding with his wife. The sexism is real and hypocrites are f***ing everywhere. I definitely know self-proclaimed feminists who have told me to my face they didn't believe the guy didn't deserve it or return the abuse in kind in some way. Shit's disgusting and why I just cringe anytime someone says they're a feminist. The real feminists don't label themselves. They just are. Anyone who parades around their ideology like that is just doing it for show. My father and stepmom are part of a bike club called Guardians of the Children. They basically supervise these moves or stand guard at these houses all night in case the abuser finds out where they victims are staying where they are. They'll put victims, whether man, woman, or children, up in hotels etc. with money from fundraising and literally sit there all night so they feel safe. It's a great organization. What kind of abuser is going to pull up with a bunch of mean biker dudes girls standing guard? They'll also come to court if the situation comes up, so the victims don't have to feel alone. It's super heartwarming. I was 15. Sexually abused by my manager at my first job. One of the biggest fast food joints. Not once, but 4 times. Someone spotted the abuse and reported it to corporate and she got a promotion. I quit and my father ignored it. Police said the company handled it. Men who are abused are ignored because it's not supposed to be possible. Thank you everyone for all the super supportive comments and upvotes and hugs. I have to say this is an amazing community. I was sexually abused on my bus when I was a preteen by the bus attendant. She was probably 19-22 or so, and would sit next to me and quietly slip her hands in my pants, and would whisper gross things to me, and make me promise I'd never tell anyone. I told a teacher who shrugged it off and didn't believe me because I was a shitty kid. I didn't tell anyone else, and it went on for months, and I felt gross all of the time. It resulted in misbehavior from me, and doing things to others I regret to this day. I opened up to my wife recently about it, and I guess it helped a bit. I don't remember much from my childhood and I think it's me blanking out a lot of the shitty things that happened to me and my sister when we were kids. I hate that I couldn't bring myself to push the issue further and get it taken care of. I never really spoke about the abuse I received. Mine mostly came in the form of gaslighting and being taken advantage of. The one time she gave me a black eye. People would ask what happened. I would say my wife hit me, and they would laugh or make some kind of witty remark. I look back at it all now and I still somehow feel it's my fault for being stupid and too eager to please instead of her being at fault. The police made me leave my own apartment for the night. They also told me I would go to jail too if she said I hit her even with no evidence and it being an obvious lie. Edit. Because this blew up. And thank you very much for the support. I let an ex back in my life for 2 weeks. I live alone. I was 4 years sober at the time, 5 now, and didn't know she was an alcoholic. Within the first few days she's punching walls and fights me when she's drunk. I tried to ignore her altogether when she's drunk. Last day she disappeared for a few hours partying with people at the pool. Comes back with only underwear and a towel. And extremely drunk saying I took her phone. She keeps threatening me with the police, so I call them myself and I am asked to leave or we both go to jail. I come back next day and stuff's broken and missing. Also she's connected to the sheriff's department through her mom, so she knew what she was doing. I got a restraining order and have since moved on with my life. Thank you for the support. It's like it doesn't exist. Spent years suffering mental torture. Getting arrested for things I hadn't done. Had my self-esteem picked away at until there was nothing left. The police ignored me and on one occasion disregarded solid proof to arrest me on her word that I had assaulted her. Been told that charging my ex for domestic abuse was not in the public interest. Long story short, I had a mental breakdown. Almost cut my throat. Punched my father. Went to jail and lost access to my son. My torture lasted for over 10 years and 4 of those were after I left. Men of Reddit, take my advice. It is better to spend your life alone than with someone who manipulates, attacks and slowly tears you apart piece by piece, because even though domestic abuse law is written for all, it is 100% against you. No one believed me, so I moved away. Just deleted all forms of social media. Got a new job right away before the Rona that pays great, and I just live by myself in a small cabin with good internet connection. I've never felt so stress-free in my life. Apparently she went berserk on FB. Showing her true colors after I left, then everyone believed me. I was told to walk away from the relationship. I counted my losses. And left. I lived with her and was only able to pack about a quarter of my things. Not even. I lost perhaps about $4,000 worth of stuff. From an electric bike. My Xbox. 2 6-feet shelves worth of DVDs and games. Clothing. I had a buddy who was willing to let me sleep in his couch. I considered homelessness. I also remember abandoning an Oz of pot there too. She obsessed over my income and I lost years worth of savings. If this is happening to you, OP. F-king run. It may suck at first. But it is relief. Tried saying I didn't feel like it. Tried saying no. Tried saying I don't have a condom. And eventually just went along with it. What's there to tell and who would care? You're not alone. I've been taken advantage of by a woman because it was either that or be homeless. She pulled my pants down and had her way with me after telling her no repeatedly. Being a guy really sucks sometimes. People are always on the side of those who tell the story. In my case, there were many people who have been supportive, but there always been that but thing. Where, especially women, are trying to put bit of a blame on me, saying it was my fault because I should behave this or that way to not provoke things. And it's not that I have done any harm to my ex. We weren't meant for each other's, but with all that shit she have done to me. There was loads of shit she accused me of to excuse her behavior. And some women bought that excuses easily. I lost my virginity. BC, a girl, who I had said no to, mounted up and rode me while I was passed out drunk. I woke up from what I thought was a wet dream, finishing inside her with no protection. It messed with me pretty hard because I'd been trying to save my virginity for a serious girlfriend or someone other than just some girl I barely knew. Not to mention the fact that I had no idea if I was about to be an unwilling father. Thankfully that was not the case. My friends just kind of said, well, at least you got laid. Right? I can't really blame them because it took a while, like years, for me to even realize that what happened was clearly rape. Wrapping our college age heads around the fact a guy could get raped was tough. I guess. I also got sexually harassed by a pair of women at a job in college, and telling people about it was met with attempts to high-five me. Thankfully these things happened years ago, and I do think men's voices in this regard are improving. Manipulated by her, and thank God my friends and her friends believed me. They shunned her for it. Now that I'm no longer living where it happened, I don't talk about it. Instead I just listen to others who might be going through the same thing and believe them. Not my story, but a very close friend. She was an excellent liar and manipulator. She is a 5'2" white girl. My buddy is a 6'4" 300+ pound black guy. Important later. A lot happened over the 8 years he dealt with her. But the final straw was she backed him into a corner, repeatedly hitting him. She eventually grabbed a kitchen knife and attacked him with that. He blocked the knife and pushed her away from him so he could get outside. At that point she told him she knew she could get him to put his hands on her eventually. She called the police claiming to be the victim. When the police arrived they arrested my friend even after he told the police he had recorded the entire fight with his phone. The police refused to watch the video because according to them, he was obviously guilty. Personally I believe race and the fact he is a man played into why they arrested him. I bailed him out of jail 13 hours later. 3 weeks later he went to the prosecutor. And when the prosecutor watched the video, they immediately dropped all charges. My buddy thankfully has a new house, full custody of his 3 kids, and is far away from that woman. It's always just sit down and talk with them. Never works. And especially since it's the whole mother being disciplinary spiel. It's automatically invalidated. Gaslighting. Emotional abuse. The works. I can't do anything about it. Life goes on. I have a friend who always showed up at the pub with bruises on his arms because she gets feisty when they argue. I later realized he was being abused but he took it because he thought it was because she loved him that much. If the genders had been reversed there wouldn't have been any doubt in my mind. But because he is a 6FT+ guy I was sort of blind to it and laughed it off as a joke. I will always regret that. I once had to do a presentation for a gender studies sort of course. And so having a friend who was abused by his girlfriend I chose to discuss the double standard in physical abuse. You'd think I was the devil incarnate. The women in the class glared and glared and glared for me raising the possibility that a woman hitting a man should be taken seriously. When I tried to talk to her about it, I got a lot of "this is embarrassing. I don't want to hear this crap." So what I did was, I transposed all the body parts and sexes of my experience and put it out there for all to read. It was very gratifying for everyone to tell me that as a man doing what I had done, I should be in jail. I got a restraining order against my ex-GF after catching her on camera breaking into my apartment, destroying my place and stealing a bunch of stuff. My friends had told me for years how terrible she was. There were times when I knew she was absolutely being awful, but my feelings for her ran deep. The detective working my case was awesome. She was surprisingly supportive, telling me you don't deserve this and we are going to make sure she doesn't get away with this. I told her I was going to court for a restraining order and the detective went ahead and served her the order after she arrested her. Even told me how she took it all, giving me direct quotes and everything once the police had recovered some of my stuff. Not me, but a friend of mine. He told me the story. I was in disbelief and I couldn't understand why he would let a girl destroy him like that. I talked to him every day after he left the girl. He was very angry at himself and turned everything inward. Took over 6 months till he started to feel like himself. The girl took his money and then went around destroyed his reputation in every network, painting him as almost a rapist. I knew the full story and had evidence to back it up, but all women didn't care about what proof we had. They would be on her side and would ignore facts and evidence. Got belittled. Called a liar. A rapist. Act. I was 15 trying to speak out about a pedophile who groomed me. But, you know, FCK me I guess. Horribly abused for years. Nobody noticed and mother when told years later doesn't understand and still talks to her and said everyone makes mistakes or grows. It hurts. They make you blame yourself. Always nitpicking at things that are trivial, even the smallest things that anyone would consider silly, so they use it against you. Even turn yourself away from friends and family so they isolate you. Always making you feel like you have to say sorry for even their actions and make you feel insecure, but then reel you back in and then mess you up again. It's a vicious circle. They say things just to hurt you and use those. Maybe a child you have say things like they don't want to see you, neither do I. I wish you were dead. I can't stand you. You're just like your family. Everything is negative to them, considering to any normal person they wouldn't use things against you at all. The list is endless, tbh, many different forms and levels of abuse you really don't want to get involved with. I told someone, family member, that I was sexually assaulted by an older woman when I was 13. They laughed. Then they said, wait. Are you serious? Then they said, if you're the type of person who lets something like that happen, I really don't want you around my kids. Last time I told someone really. Except when I was dating. Told my girlfriend at the time. She immediately hopped into the time when she was raped. We had heart-to-heart about her assault before. And basically said how much worse hers was than mine. It's like, it's not a competition. I expected no one to really care much about it. Maybe even joke about it. And there was a lot of that. People kind of laughed it off. I didn't use the word abused. I said I was hit and that my partner was acting manipulative. It was kind of haha. Slacking on the chores. Or forgot to take out the garbage. They kind of treated it like a wife humorously slapping her husband in a sitcom. And I kind of expected that. What I wasn't expecting is, while I did hear that a lot, there were also quite a few people who were not like that. A lot of people were pretty sympathetic. Even my friends who didn't act like women could even abuse men gave me a sorry dude. That sucks. And other women who have been abused or seen their friends abuse men were very empathetic. There was also a lot of support online and certain men's rights groups. Which, while I do not agree a lot of stuff that a lot of these groups say, I do think there is a lot of value in their calling out of abuse against men. The sexual abuse hotline counselor asked me if I was even into women when I told her what happened and then made excuses for her BC she was drunk and acting on instinct. Laughed at mostly because of my size. I'm 6 feet 3 inches and have some mass. To me most people couldn't understand how a girl could gain any power over me. I was taught not to hit girls, although it wasn't all physical abuse. Because of the nature of my job is if I go to therapy or seek help I could possibly get red flagged and lose my job. Her family hated me and probably still does. My family stayed friendly with her. A couple of my friends believed me, but that's as far as it went. She convinced people I was the abuser even though I have scars and she's completely unscathed. I've pretty much stopped bothering with women because finding a good one is like searching for a marble in a pile of needles. It's just not worth the pain to find a tiny bit of fun. I've only told 2 people. Both were extremely eager to help me. And horribly worried. If I'm being honest. It was the most love I had felt in the months. Of course. When I had a visibly bloody bandage on my forehead. And a green bruise that stretched halfway down my face. People at work asked me if I said something wrong to my fiancé. It was hard not to say yes. Edit. The injury was from being hit in the head by a thrown snow globe. It wasn't the only injury I got. But it was the one that gave me the feeling of oh my god. I think I might die today. Haven't told anyone. Not my family. Not my friends. Not even my therapist. The shame is too much and I'd never be taken seriously. I don't date anymore. I don't even talk to women unless there's one taking my money at a cash register. And it's just the bare minimum thanks have a nice day spiel. I feel like any new interaction is a manipulation on the new person's part and I cannot establish any kind of trust with them. At this point in my life I've made up my mind to die alone. I can't navigate relationships at all. I had an acute case of spousal abuse. My wife hit me repeatedly over the course of 45 minutes or so. And I recorded a lot of it on video while it was happening. The next day, I utilized both the healthcare system for documentation of injuries and the criminal justice system for filing of a police report. In both instances, I felt respected, believed, and treated with fairness and kindness. I never told anyone. They told me after I was explaining what I was going through. Victims of emotional abuse gaslighting are essentially convinced that they are in the wrong and that they aren't actually being abused. Mine was so rough that in the end, she actually divorced me. I couldn't even muster the strength to walk away on my own. She later realized she made a huge mistake. Great for me. because she had thought that maintenance alimony was locked in. I had just gotten a brand new job pulling us out of some financial troubles, and 2 months into it she divorced me. During the court proceedings she learned that it was adjustable and only for a couple years, where she thought it was not adjustable and permanent. And X200B. Since then, since it was emotional abuse, I have never had someone be unsupportive when I tell them of this. Physical sexual abuse is a whole other animal, and I am so sorry to anyone who has suffered through that and has been ignored or belittled for it. When I told my dad about my sister sexually abusing me as a child, frankly having an emotional breakdown in his living room. Well, to this day he says he doesn't remember us having that conversation. When I told my mother about it, she simply asked, "Did I abuse you?" And when I said no, she got out of the car. To be clear, my sister spent a year flashing me, getting me to play strip poker, etc, culminating the last night it happened when she came in my room, put my hand in her panties on her vagina, and placing my other hand on her breast. I pretended to be asleep, so she left. But I'm convinced that had I responded she would have attempted to pay me or actually raped me. How could she abuse you? Look at the size of you. That was my nan when I told her what I had been going through. How did that happen? I always thought you were strong. One of my closest friends, female, at the time. I was fortunate in my parents being amazing and having some incredible friends who supported me. But even now, 5 years on, it causes me some anxiety talking about it. Interestingly enough, my mom was the one who understood and didn't judge me at all. Most others just wrote it off as "don't stick your DCK in, crazy idiot, lol." This was once I admitted it to myself and then to others. A very strange experience. Tried to tell a few people. No one really believed me in my circle of friends. They were able to convince their friends that I was the abuser. The last straw was when they used a taser. That shit hurts and left burns. That truly was the last straw because it left enough evidence that I could use to document the abuse and get out. Without physical evidence, it was word against word, and as a male, no one believed me. Not physical abuse, but definitely emotional and psychological abuse. Constantly being told and having her tell others that you're a bad man because she is insecure, prone to drama and fighting, and in her mind it's your fault. Nobody cares. It's not illegal. It's an abstract, vague form of abuse that can't be proven. Which is why people like that take advantage of it. A girl once tried to force me to have sex with her. Me, not being ready or willing, pushed her away and refused. The next day I told my friends about it, and the only response I got was, "Damn mate, you should have gone for it." I was just like, WTF. Just because she's a girl doesn't mean I automatically have to have sex with her. So since then I've never really told anyone about it. P.S. IDK if this actually belongs here, but I feel like I needed to take it off my chest. As a trans man, when both my ex and my mother were emotionally manipulating me, I tried to talk to my friends about it, so asking if it was normal. I had multiple people tell me it was normal for women to treat a man that way. One person even said if I wanted to pass as being a cis male, I had to keep quiet and take it because that's what men do.